Welcome to the Unconventional Ministry podcast, where we talk about fresh ministry ideas and innovative approaches. And I'm excited to have my guest today, Ray Heinen with SAT7. And he has a phrase he uses all the time, theology through technology. So Ray, welcome to the Unconventional Ministry podcast.
Thank you for having me, Dennis. It's glad to be with you and glad to be with the audience to unpack one of the very short phrases, yet very meaningful for the Middle East and North Africa.
Well, this podcast is about fresh ideas, and theology through technology is definitely a fresh idea. It's an innovative approach. So talk to us a little bit about this phrase you use all the time when you talk about SAT7. We should maybe tell people what SAT7 is. It's a Middle East broadcast media ministry that started really with satellite, but's moved beyond that into web streaming, digital, social media. And you use the phrase theology through technology. Help us unpack that a little bit. What do you mean by that phrase?
Yeah, a little bit of a history about that, Dennis, that SAT7, as you said, started as a satellite television through the Middle East and North Africa, with two important couple of things. It's free to air, available for all, and uncensored. So in that, we had a great tool to send and beam theology through the satellites. But now with the digital and social media, so we have unlimited resource open for all. So the message of SAT7 is making people receive hope in Christ and make that hope available for everyone. There is no better way to do that rather than having people sitting in their room, in their house, watching television and hearing about the message of hope and the love of Christ. So that's theology. The Lord has told us to go and make disciples and preach His name and give hope to people, and nothing better than do that through a medium that's got available for us, free to air and uncensored. So this is started with a satellite 26 years ago, when SAT7 beamed the first 2 hours of broadcast per week. As you remember, that was 2 hours only, and it was really a breakthrough. Later on, we have now 4 channels working 24/7 with over 800 hours from our studios in Cairo, Egypt, Beirut, Lebanon, and Istanbul, Turkey, and also in Farsi. So Farsi, Arabic, and Turkish, and you have over 500 million people, maybe 550 by now. Most of them haven't heard the gospel in a proper way or in their living room.
Right, now, and you talk about the early days. SAT7 was really a pioneer in Christian Middle East satellite television, but SAT7 is also a pioneer nowadays in the whole area of digital. And as I meet people, Ray, in Europe, you've worked in the Middle East. You used to watch SAT7 in the Middle East before you came to the States. Yeah. People think of television as entertaining, but to do discipleship, you really need to be in person, one-on-one, small groups, and just help people walk through this idea of satellite and digital as being used to disciple people and grow people in their faith, even provide church services.
Well, here in the West, we have a lot of resources that we can go to, but back in the Middle East, many of our viewers and faith seekers are isolated believers in rural areas or in some of the hardship places that they cannot even go to a church or meet a Christian or get disciples. So they have to find some way, we have to find for them some way to get disciples and hear the gospel. So this is where the satellite became the tool for them to have a great way to get disciples, hear the news, and help them to grow in their faith. Now, with the digital media and social media, this is unlimited resource that we have right now. Praise the Lord for it, with all its complication. But you go back to the Middle East, and you've been there many times, and you'll find people having their best technology in their hands, even more than what we have over here. So you see a phone or an Android phone or iPhone on the market, a few months, maybe a few years later, you and me get our hands on it. But in the Middle East, immediately they get that, because this is the window for them to be exposed to the entire world. So they invest in those tools, and once they have it, now we have our app, Sat7 app, that they can watch live through it and watch any of our programs, live show. And of course, the VOD, the video on demand right now is so big. So people can go and download the episodes or the programs of their discipleship, and they don't have to wait for another week or two or the rerun for a program. So it's just in their hands right now. If they have a phone or iPad, they have it, and they have all the resources needed.
Right, and we don't necessarily replace other models where you would have access, but you take like countries like Iran, it's very hard to have access, and yet through technology we can have access to disciple, to encourage, to pray with, to provide all the resources they need to grow in their faith. I know Iran's in the news a lot, and theology through technology is an incredible asset for the church to have this ability to still continue to be a voice and an advocate for the church and the Christians there, right?
That's correct. And let me add a little bit more about that to unpack this short phrase as well. Here is the technology is available in our hands here in the West, back in the Middle East as well. And the theology is already been there. So the content is there, the talents is there, and the programs are there. All what we do is just connect the theology and technology together. In other words, let's flip the site and say we connect the technology with the needed theology, the strong faith of Jesus Christ. And people been watching dreams in Iran, Afghanistan, and other parts of the world. The Lord is visiting this part of the world, and we're just making the connection. The Lord has enabled Sat7 to make the connection between theology and the available technology, or the technology with the right theology. And that seems like an awesome, a great way to make disciples wherever we are, whether we're here in Kansas City or here in any place in the U.S. or the entire world. And that's to obey the Lord to what He said. Now, you said something about Iran, and in fact, we've been receiving more calls, more contacts from our viewers or faith seekers. They seek guidance, they seek answer to their questions, they want to be prayed for or pray with, and some consultation also about or counseling about their current need. So what a great blessings that we have here to do the theology through technology with a very reasonable price to do all of that, but it is priceless to see someone who is in need in a place like in Iran or Afghanistan and get help through just a digital app or a social media that we have with Sat7.
And I would encourage our listeners today to get on our website, sat7usa.org. That's SAT, the number 7, USA.org. And then get on our social media where we're telling a lot of the stories on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn as well. I know we were at a meeting recently in Nashville, and Ray, we were there together, and so many of the servers and people serving us, we had a group of about 80, and they were all from Egypt, and maybe some of your relatives, but they were so excited that they were serving a Sat7 group, and we had some amazing stories of how their children even now are watching Sat7 Kids. Again, an element of digital or technology that's making it possible for them and their children to watch content produced in their country, in their heart, culture, and language, but they're watching in Nashville, Tennessee.
That's true. And in that place, we've seen a lot of, as you said, majority Egyptians, and we have seen a Lebanese lady and Moroccan and probably Algerian, if I'm not mistaken, and they all recognize Sat7 from our logo. But many of them stopped and talked with us about how that was a blessing to them when they were still back home. And now this is a great tool for them to connect their kids to their homeland and the language, the mother language that they came from. And to my surprise, kids, when they come here in early age, they lose the contact and lose the language. But to my surprise, and probably heard that from some of our friends there, the Egyptian servants who really showed a lot of generosity. while doing that, and they said now our kids been like here since 10 years, and they still watch Sat7 Kids. They are so engaged and tight with that, and we're glad that this is helping him to be connected with home, with their mother tongue, and with the theology needed for their today's life here in the United States as well.
You mentioned earlier a little bit about the app. We have a new Sat7 app, and all 4 satellite TV channels are streaming live on Sat7 Plus, and it's an app available in the App Store, and it's available in any browser worldwide. SAT, the number 7, plus.org. That's Sat7 Plus. Look for it in the app stores, and you can watch anywhere in the world. And it's a great conversational starter if you meet people that speak Arabic, Farsi, or Turkish. And again, Ray, that's a whole new aspect of technology is going into the apps and then rethinking social media, again, all to deliver theology in social media. It can't be 30-minute or an hour sermons like you give sometimes, but it has to be reduced down to maybe about 2 minutes, actually.
That's true. And as you know, the younger generation, they have a focus span is different than our older age. And sometimes 3 minutes or 4 minutes is too long for them. So we have to deliver a content within 2 minutes. And we heard from Rita Al-Munayr, our CEO, and how that is more difficult to produce 2 minutes video with the same content that you used to say in 30 minutes, make it in 2 or 3 minutes. And that needs a lot of talent, a lot of technology, a lot of editing, but definitely that reach out to more of a younger generation. So that's a great tool to have for the digital media. And in fact, I met a couple of, this is a fresh story. We've been visiting one of our Sat7 friends in the last week, and their kids as well. We start to talk with them about Sat7. They are from the Middle East originally, and the kids been raised here, and now they are in college. And when we told them about Sat7 digital, you know what kids will do. They just ran to their phone quickly, and they downloaded the app, and they were amazed in what they're seeing. And this is a 4K. This is the latest technology. And in fact, they were so happy to tell their friends, even their peers, American peers, look what our ministry is doing back in the Middle East. That was very encouraging to me as well.
So, Ray, you like to go and speak to groups, and you like to meet with people, and as well as speak in churches. If you'd want to learn more about Sat7, you can invite Ray if you go to the website sat7usa.org. That's SAT, the number 7 USA.org, and then you go to leadership, and under leadership you'll see Ray's picture and his contact information there, and Ray would be glad to come to your church. Really, any of us on that leadership webpage would welcome the opportunity to connect with you wherever you are in the United States. So again, thank you, Ray, for joining this episode of the Unconventional Ministry podcast. What Sat7's doing is innovative, it's pioneering, it's a fresh idea, and it's delivering the hope of the gospel, theology, helping people grow in their faith. And so thank you for joining me and for explaining this phrase that you use all the time, theology through technology.
My pleasure, Dennis. And as you mentioned, I will just echo what you said again. We'll be glad to speak in your small group or a church meeting, or with the missions committee, or whoever will be encouraged with this kind of news. Last Friday, I was among a Bible study group in 7 a.m. They meet before they go to work. And usually that's a small group of 5 or 7, maybe 14 at the most, or 15. That group was about 44 people. They never heard about Sat7, and they were amazed what the Lord is doing in the Middle East. So there is always an opportunity for us to encourage you and give you the opportunity to be a prayer partner and support to Sat7, because this is a great way to be in God's work on the Middle East and North Africa. So thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your support. And we look forward to encourage you and your group, your church, with what the Lord is doing in the Middle East and North Africa.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, share it with your friends. We'd appreciate that. Leave a comment, and think about inviting either Ray or myself to come to your group and to share more about SAT7, what SAT7 is doing to see a growing church across the Middle East and North Africa. So again, Ray, thank you for joining us on the Unconventional Ministry podcast.
Thank you, Dennis.
In our changing world, there are more ways than ever to do ministry. SAT7, as a broadcast media ministry, is changing how ministry is done. Through innovative approaches, collaborative efforts, broadcast satellite television, web streaming, and social media, SAT7 is making a difference. Visit SAT7 online today at sat7usa.org to learn ways you can be a part of this kingdom work. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please share it with your friends. If you know of an unconventional ministry approach, please introduce us. We'd like to have them on as guests. Thank you again for joining this episode of the Unconventional Ministry podcast.